evening, viewers. You're watching To The Point. I'm Preeti Chowdhury. Rahul Gandhi might have had a bit of a breather today because he's being questioned tomorrow by the ED for the fourth time. But the Congress continued to protest. Now, the Congress calls it Satyagrah. What we've seen resembles a street fight. If the Congress yesterday went on and said that they were being targeted by the Delhi police, in some places kicked, the Delhi police entering the headquarters of the Congress in Delhi. Today it was a very different story because the protest by the Congress turned violent in various parts of the country. Importantly, a very senior leader who would be joining us, Renuka Chowdhury, went and pulled the collar of one of the policemen on duty. Is this Satyagrah or an all-out street fight is the question we ask this evening. A day's breather for Rahul Gandhi from ED questioning, but not a breather for the Congress protest. The Congress's Satyagrah against what the party says is misuse of central agencies continued and in places turned violent. Congress fury exploded in Hyderabad, Bengaluru, Chennai, Chandigarh, Kolkata, Jammu. Congress workers in Hyderabad vandalized a bus and set another vehicle on fire.
Protesters seem to have a common Modi government directly in response to the Rahul Gandhi. So this is a major part of the protest here right now.
But Congress leader Renuka Chowdhury crossed the line in Hyderabad, where she grabbed an on-duty policeman by his collar. The cop was merely doing his duty, trying to stop the agitated Congress leaders.
I have no hesitation in apologizing to the police if I was wrong. I have no hesitation to apologize. I am the daughter of a uniform, and I know what the answer is. What a pity that our police have been reduced to this by ruling government, where they're nothing but puppets in the hands of the government.
It's been a face-off between the Congress and the law enforcement, with excesses made from both sides. If Renuka Chowdhury held the collar of a cop on duty in Delhi on Wednesday, B.V. Srinivas, Youth Congress leader, was kicked by a cop while he was being detained. In Bengaluru, Congress leaders Siddaramaiah, D.K. Shivakumar were detained after a protest. But the gridlock caused massive traffic jams, where an ambulance was also stuck.
ಯಾಕೆ ಅವನು ಈಶ್ವರಪ್ಪನ ಮೇಲೆ ಹಾಕಿಲ್ಲ ಅವರು ಮಹಾಮಂತ್ರಿಗಳು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಪ್ರೊಸೀಜರ್ ಮಾಡಿಸಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ ಯಾಕೆ ಕೇಸ್ ಹಾಕಿಲ್ಲ ಕೇಂದ್ರ ಮಂತ್ರಿಗಳ ಮೇಲೆ ಕೇಸ್ ಹಾಕಿಲ್ಲ ಗವರ್ನರ್ ಇದು ಪ್ರಮಾಣ ವಚನ ಸ್ವೀಕಾರ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ ಅದ್ಯಾಕೆ ಕೇಸ್ ಹಾಕಿಲ್ಲ.
In Chandigarh, protesters tried to break police barricades, forcing cops to use water cannons to disperse them. In Chennai, Congress workers raised slogans against the BJP. Rahul Gandhi is to be questioned on Friday for the fourth time. According to sources, Rahul has told ED that Motilal Vora was the authorized signatory for all the financial transactions between AJL and Young Indian. Motilal Vora's son has refuted the claims.
ईडी की बात बाहर आ नहीं सकती और तथ्यहीन बातों का मेरे पास कोई जवाब नहीं है.
While the heat is on the Gandhi family, the Congress is out in full strength to protect its first family. The BJP calls it a stunt. The Congress calls it Satyagrah. On the ground right now, all one sees is a street fight. Bureau Report, India Today. All right, viewers, joining me right now is former WCD minister, leader of the Congress, who today is being accused of assaulting a police personnel. I have with me Renuka Chowdhury. Appreciate you joining us, Ms. Chowdhury. My first question, madam, would be if yesterday you had high moral ground because your own, like B.V. Srinivas, was kicked by a Delhi police cop, the Delhi police barged into the Congress headquarters. You whittled all of that away by actually grabbing a cop who is on duty by his collar, and he showed abject restraint, madam. You should know better. You're a law person yourself. You've been in the cabinet of this country.
Yes, I agree it looks very bad, but that's not the truth. We also know how many optical illusions can happen. You need to look and scrutinize the videos before and after, where I have categorically said I'm turning back, I want my car, please call my car. You can hear me telling my assistant, please bring my car. Ladies and all of us were going. Then the police started manhandling us. The visuals of me where I'm breaking the grip of the police holding my arm, and I'm asking them, under what section are you arresting me? For what? I have not gone to the Raj Bhavan. I'm standing in the middle of the road. Media is talking to me. Men police have surrounded us. Men. And they are manhandling us from behind. And I was pushed. I would have fallen onto that poor policeman. I tried to reach, support myself, and I had to catch his collar because I couldn't get his shoulder. So everything that you see is not the truth. There's always another side of the story. And now you please ask the police of Telangana, on what grounds were they arresting me? Under what sections have they brought me to the police station? They put 4 of us women in this policeman where I'm sitting. And they took us around the whole city for 2 hours. They refused to divulge which station they were taking me. I was trying to contact my lawyer. And my phone was not with me.
Madam, the police has now lodged a case against you for assaulting a cop on duty in Hyderabad. That's what the claim is. You've been detained as well. But the fact is, madam, I'll once again ask you, you talk about optical illusions and we'll play that video out. You know, they can be optical illusions, but some things are pretty plain truth, and this video says a lot on that front. The very fact that you're looking at, you're talking of a Satyagrah. Yesterday, the Congress had high moral ground because, yes, the Delhi police came down on like kicking B.V. Srinivas, I'll again say it, entering the Congress headquarters. Now, with what you've done, you've taken all of that away because this looks like an out-and-out street fight. Do you apologize at all? Are you sorry?
I had no intention. I don't know who that poor police fellow is. I have no intention of harming him or hurting him. But I also am asking a question. On what sections have they arrested me? I want to know that. On what grounds did they arrest me in the first place? Why were they hassling us and attacking the women? They've torn our clothes. They've pinched and scratched. The visuals I'll show you, where they're trying to hold my hand and push us. And visuals of the women who have accompanied us, who are being bumped into the police car, where that lady's head has hit the door frame.
Ms. Chowdhury, with what you say would have had more moral validity, that you were with women, you were pinched, your clothes were torn. If you hadn't caught hold of that cop on duty, his collar, and shoved him a little. Now, you say it's optical illusion, but madam, I'll leave it up to your better judgment. Maybe an apology would have done better, but appreciate you joining us. Thank you there. I want to now cut across to our panelists this evening. I have Rohan Gupta, spokesperson Congress, R.P. Singh, spokesperson Bharatiya Janata Party, Vikram Singh, former DGP, UP and security expert. The reason we have Mr. Singh on the panel is, viewers, because what we are now seeing is the Congress versus law enforcement. Yesterday, if it was the Delhi police versus the Congress, with many excesses, they say, were made by the Delhi police. Some of them were quite visual because you saw a cop kick B.V. Srinivas. We'll play that visuals out as well. But today, the tables turned. You had a senior leader from the Congress, Renuka Chowdhury, actually grabbed the collar of a policeman on duty, and he showed abject restraint. So, Rohan Gupta, I ask you, Renuka Chowdhury says it's an optical illusion. I'm hoping, sir, that you and I and the other panelists know better. We can see what went down. The fact is, by an act like this, yesterday your party had the high moral ground, Mr. Gupta, because your party, in a lot of ways, was at the back of excesses made by the Delhi police, with the cops entering the Congress headquarters, with B.V. Srinivas being kicked. But all of that has been turned today by this action.
Priti, I feel the way, if you have seen last 3 days, we have never, as far as our country is concerned, the way police have brutally, been after our leaders, whether it is MP, JB Mathur, whether our senior leaders, whether Chidambaram ji, whether Mallikarjun ji, everybody. I was there for 2 days. It was really surprising. The way they entered our head office, they opened our doors, took our people from our head office and took them away. We have never seen this kind of visuals. And what you were showing, Renuka ji gave her explanation that before that, whatever has happened, she was not having her mobile. However, looking at the visuals, I personally don't endorse this kind of behavior by anybody. This is my personal
But
belief.
Mr. Gupta, Renuka ji has said it's an optical illusion. She was sharp. Now, you and I both know better, sir. You have to look at it and call out for what it is.
Let me complete. Let me complete, Priti. Let me complete. That's what I am saying. She was giving her explanation that the clothes of her colleagues were torn and she was not having her phone. Everything okay, but I personally don't endorse this kind of behavior. But at the same time, you need to ask questions to BJP for last 3 days, what they have done. Have you seen this kind of situation in our democracy, where senior leaders like P. Chidambaram, the ex-minister, the senior women leaders, MPs, the way they have been heckled, the way they have been treated, we have never seen this kind of situation. What we were doing peaceful march from our office to ED office, that's it. It was a 1 kilometer march. Apart from, we have not done anything. It was peaceful march. So I think at the same time, when I say honestly that personally I don't feel that what is visible is correct, at the same time you should ask question to BJP, what they have done for last 3 days, is it justified at any cost?
Well, Mr. Gupta, at least the viewers who are watching would be glad that you accept what happened today was wrong. And visually, let me tell you, sir, whatever moral high ground you had from yesterday was lost completely by what Ms. Chowdhury did today.
Let me complete. Whether it is moral high ground or not, we have seen situation in last 3 days. I think you should definitely ask questions to BJP. It's not about being moral ground. It is about responsibility of fighting. It is about our right.
I would hope you accept that at least on this channel and this show, questions are asked on both sides. I want to bring in RP Singh into this conversation. Mr. Singh, the fact is, what went down today with Ms. Chowdhury pulling the collar of a police person on duty, there's no excuse for that. And, I could even go ahead and say that whatever the Congress moral high ground they had from yesterday of the Delhi police cracking down, they've lost that today with this. But having said this, Section 144 in place, what is it that the Congress wanted to do? It's about taking out a march from their headquarters to the ED office for the Delhi police to come down on them. And the way they have come down on them, questions need to be raised on that, sir.
Well, it was named as Satyagrah, and I remember of 1922 Mahatma Gandhi's Chowdhury Satyagrah, where small violence, and he said, "I'm not going to continue that Satyagrah." Tires were being burnt outside ED office, and then when there is Section 144, we should go by. We have also done demonstration. We were arrested many times. The moment we will cross the barricade, we will be arrested and packed up in the bus and sent to the local police station. But we will not burn tires. What are they trying to do? They are trying to divert the issue. The issue is that Mr. Rahul Gandhi is no prince of the country. He is answerable like us, you and me, like common man, and he need to answer. Simple as it is. Why it's being shown that, oh, it's Mr. Rahul Gandhi, the Yuvraj of the country, he can't be questioned. He is above law. He is not above law. And as Yuvraj would be, he was followed by the Janta. Even the Prime Minister, when the Chief Minister was called, he simply went, sat down for 10 hours, more than 10 hours, and came back and gave every answer which was required. So if ED is asking questions, answer those questions and come back and let the court take, let it go to the court and let the court take a call on this. And again, let me just remind, they keep saying that ED is being misused. This case started in 2012 by the order of High Court, not by the ED itself. And High Court ordered for inquiry and then ED came into it. So they can keep trying to confuse people. Ultimately, they will have to answer that how did that money went around, tripping of the money went around from a party which is led by Congress party, Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, to a company which has a majority stakeholder of Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi, and of the company where Rahul Gandhi and Congress was the stakeholder and took over that company, and what is the role of that company in Kolkata, which is Diverting and merchandise, what is the role of that company, and how the money was stripped, that 1 crore was stripped from Kolkata to Young India, and what is the relation between Young India and Diverting? So they have to answer this simply.
All right, I want to bring in Vikram Singh, former DGP UP, as well into this conversation. Mr. Singh, appreciate the patience, and I want to ask you, sir, with the kind of instances that we saw yesterday, where, there is a protest, you are detaining leaders, What's the point of a cop coming out and kicking that leader while he's being detained? On the other hand, what went down today? You have Renuka Chowdhury actually pulling the collar of a cop who's shown great restraint.
Absolutely, Preeti. There is no explanation and they cannot be condoned. Whoever kicked Mr. B.B. Srinivas needs to be taken to task as per the law, and suitable departmental and disciplinary action needs to be taken against that police officer who kicked Mr. B.B. Srinivas. Now, coming to the fact of the second incident of Ms. Renuka ji, it was such a pleasure to interact with Renuka ji, I as DGP of Uttar Pradesh and Madam Renuka ji as a Union Cabinet Minister. So learned and so educative, and she would tell us what is the legal aspect and many other issues. It is totally unexpected, and in one incident this Satyagrah has been converted into a Duragrah, the breach of 144 CRPC to manhandle a cop, and that too, and to say that this is an optical illusion. It is neither an optical illusion nor a hallucination. It is perfect and proven by your video recordings that she is surrounded by women constables, and there is no question, there is absolutely no question of any ill treatment of Madam Renuka ji, and also nobody would have the temerity to do a thing like that, or even if it had happened that way. She claims, and which I'm sure she is from the finest family pedigree, it is totally unexpected. At least I, for one, am very disappointed and shocked at this conduct.
But Mr. Singh, as I go back to Mr. Gupta, and Mr. Gupta has a point which he started off with even yesterday. You know, should have the Delhi police entered the premises of a headquarter? They were protesting inside their own headquarters.
I don't think the police should have actually entered the headquarters. That is, you see, it is not a criminal's, it is a political agitation, and the police should have maintained respectable distance, and entering the headquarters, I have my own reservations. They should have intervened only when there was a breach of law or there was a requirement for them to intervene. Unnecessarily entering the headquarters was best avoided.
I want to bring in Rahul Gupta into this conversation. Now, Rahul Gupta, the fact is it's not an odd incident of possibly one leader, acting out by grabbing the collar of a cop. The fact is there are reports of violence and arson from across the country. It's not just what happened, in Hyderabad with Renuka Chowdhury.
Preeti, if you see last 3 days, whatever has happened, I was there across these agitations at Delhi. It was very peaceful on day one. Rahul ji came, we were just marching. The way they started, brutalizing the whole thing. It was never expected by any of the leaders who were there. Still we were peaceful. There was calmly. Next day, if you see, they entered our headquarters. They beat our workers. They took them away. B.B. Srinivas or Sachin Pilot ji, how can you expect this? This is never expected. Mr. Singh was talking about the case. Let me tell you, Mr. Rahul Gandhi or Sonia ji, they always respected the law. They never said that we will not go to ED. The issue is this is not the matter of ED. We have done 4 press conferences. There is no question of money laundering anywhere. If there is a question of money laundering, where is the FIR? If ED wants to act, there has to be FIR. There was a private complaint by Mr. Swamy, which was withheld by himself. Where is the question of FIR? There is no answer. Let me give you 6 examples. Mr. Narayan Rane, Mr. Hemanto Vishwasa, Mr. Yadurappa, Mr. Raman Singh. These are the leaders against which the ED inquiry was initiated, and after that then nothing happened. Why? Because they joined BJP. So where is the scope of ED? ED's scope is money laundering, and wherever the complaints were filed, there is no action because those leaders joined BJP, and wherever they want to harass the opposition, even if there is no scope of ED, they will go and harass the opposition. So we were agitating against that. It is our right to demonstrate against that, or peacefully go with our leaders for a march from our office to ED office. I don't know what is the reason for BJP to get frustrated and tell their police that, okay, go after Congress leaders. It was not justified at any cost.
All right, okay. So, RP Singh, the Congress says that we are not protesting due process or coming in the way of due process of law. They are protesting what they say is the use, or the rather misuse, of central agencies. And the examples given by Mr. Gupta are plenty. Where ED cases were hot on the heels of certain leaders, the minute they crossed over to the BJP, they went cold.
Okay, now let me put it very clearly that these 2 leaders, Sonia Gandhi, the Maharani, and the Prince Rahul Gandhi, are out on bail. They have been let out by bail from the court. It's not that ED is pushing the matter. As I told earlier, it is because of the High Court order the matter has been pursued by the ED, not other way around, that ED has taken up some cognizance. And once the matter is taken by the High Court and High Court orders a inquiry into it, then you don't need a FIR to we filed for that case, one, legally speaking. But that point aside, what's happening? I mean, okay, you are blaming Delhi police. I also accept that cop should be, cop has misbehaved and should be booked, or whatever internal actions to be taken can be taken. But what happened in Hyderabad? Was it a Delhi police? What was the order by Delhi police? Was the order by the central government? No. It clearly shows what is the mood of Congress. They are doing it all to make a cover up for what Mr. Rahul Gandhi has to answer. None of them are telling that what Mr. Rahul Gandhi has done, what he has committed, what Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi has committed. None of them speaking on that. But they are doing all this to show, or probably, I think, relaunch Mr. Rahul Gandhi, because repackage and relaunch Rahul Gandhi, as they have done it earlier and failed earlier. Probably they think this will help. That's not going to help. People can see through what Congress is trying to do, and no Satyagrah can be done by burning tires or catching hold of the cost by collar, or even otherwise sort of protest they are doing. I mean, I told you, we have done a lot of protests. Whom the police will say that you are arrested, we'll court arrest and move in the buses and go to the whatever police station they want us to take. Not like this. And also, why are they trying to grab ED office? Why are they to grab ED office? Any reason to grab ED office? It means they are trying to put a pressure on ED. Don't dare not to ask the leader any question. Similar thing they did in the Supreme Court also. They tried to put pressure on Supreme Court in the Ram Mandir case also. That's just a technique. They also brought the case against the judge of the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. So that's a routine process of putting pressure on agencies. But agencies work independent of whatever they want to do.
Okay. All right. I want to go back to Vikram Singh once again. And, what's the curious case, Mr. Singh, in all of this is, because, you've been the DGP of Uttar Pradesh, and, yes, you're not from any central agencies, but there are a lot of strange leaks coming in. Is the ED leaking all of that's going in? Because then that's highly unprofessional, because the latest leak is that Rahul Gandhi, when being questioned by the ED, turned around and said that it was Motilal Vora who was the signatory in most of these cases. Now, I'm not talking about what he said, but the fact that these leaks are coming in, could it be the ED? And if it is the ED, should it be plugged then?
Preeti, if it is the ED or anybody else, it is a matter of very great concern, and an ED is reputed to be a very professional organization. This is uncalled for, unexpected, and the way it has leaked, it calls for a fresh inquiry against the officers who were interrogating. How did this matter come out in the open when only few people, a handful, were privy to what had transpired? This leakage needs to be inquired, and whoever has leaked it, whether it was a deliberate, accidental, in either case, somebody has to answer how this leakage happened. Obviously, there should be consequences, and somebody with a manipulative mind has had this leakage so as to, for whatever political gains. I think this needs to be inquired, and people will have to answer.
Rohan Gupta, was Rahul Gandhi asked about, did he say that it was Motilal Vora who was the main signatory in all the cases, because his son has come out and refuted that?
See, first of all, Preeti, this is really surprising that how the ED leaks are coming on the national TV. I am asking you this question. You should reflect the source that from where you got this information. Last 3 days, I am seeing articles in India Today and then many other channels. I think this is really surprising. And how can a senior leader who has been questioned by one agency, how can be leaks from that side? It is only ED sources where it is coming out. So I don't know what he has spoken there. But if you can justify the source, then definitely we can discuss that out. But this can happen only in BJP rule, that a senior leader which is questioned by ED, I think who is not respecting the overall scientific issue.
RP Singh, I'll ask you one quick question. Do you condemn these leaks? Because we don't know. There are source-based leaks that are coming in. If they're coming in from the ED side, then that's condemnable.
Well, it could be from the Rahul Gandhi side also.
True, you're right.
It can be from Rahul Gandhi's side, because by doing so, he's putting pressure on. It's the image building process. He's trying to put the blame on Vora by doing so.
If it is
Mr. Rahul Gandhi, don't do that. Stop heckling. So Rahul Gandhi is very smart. His PR agency would have told him that to leak it and then put the blame on ED and let Motilal Vora be the scapegoat. Let Motilal Vora be the scapegoat. Very easy and very simple. So I'm putting it other way around, and let Mr. Rahul Gupta answer.
Okay.
Why did Rahul Gandhi leak whatever he has said inside? Whatever he has said inside, why did he leak whatever he has said to the ED? Why did he leak it outside? Or
Okay, we don't know. Okay, one second.
What has happened inside?
Okay, one second. Okay, we don't know. These are source-based information that is filtering out. And like Mr. Vikram Singh said, the ED is an esteemed central agency, and if it is coming in at the back end where the ED is concerned, it needs to be plugged. Mr. R.P. Singh said it could very well come from the Congress. Rohan Gupta is vociferously shaking his head. No, it's not the Congress. But whatever it is, action needs to be taken, because that would lead to a lot of speculation as well. I'm sorry, Mr. Gupta, I'm out of time. I need to close the show. I appreciate all three of you gentlemen for joining us. I want to come down to what we started with, viewers. What we see right now is a street fight between the Congress and law enforcement. If yesterday the high moral ground went to the Congress, today it was the Congress that shamed itself in the form of a senior leader pulling away at the collar of a police person on duty. It hasn't ended yet, because Rahul Gandhi is going to go back and be questioned by the ED for the 4th time.